Hey guys, we're back for lesson 2. I promise you this one is going to be much shorter. So today we're going to talk about fractional coefficients. So this first example here in the box is all done for us. I wish it was in color, but it's not. So here we've got just things that are highlighted, that I'll point out as we go along. So here's the original problem. We've got this fraction here, -3/5 times x equals 2. So again, remember, this is -3/5 times what number will give us 2. So we want to remove our fraction, the -3/5, by multiplying by the reciprocal. So some vocabulary in here, reciprocal. This should be a review word. The reciprocal is kind of the opposite when it comes to fractions. So if we have -3/5, the reciprocal is -5/3. So we just flip that fraction around. Okay. So we're going to multiply. So what happens when we multiply by reciprocals? Well, if I do this all out, so when we multiply with fractions, little review here, we multiply across the top. So negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 5 is 15. And then we multiply the denominators here. 5 times 3 again is 15. And 15 goes into 15, or 15 divided by 15, is equal to 1. So the idea of multiplying by the reciprocal is to cancel these out. So here, this is what they're showing, this multiplication here. So they kind of, I like to cross them off. They equal 1. So we don't have to do that math out like I did over here if we understand that multiplying by the reciprocal equals to 1. We call this an inverse operation. And since we're multiplying, we call it the multiplicative inverse. You'll see those words in your vocabulary. Okay, multiplicative inverse. All right, so multiply both sides by -5/3. So what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So here's that -5/3. So we multiply across the top. 2 times -5 is -10. 1 times 3 is 3. So right here, this is fine. This is done. Okay, but I know you guys, you like to take your improper fraction and change it to a mixed number. So we've got the word or here. So you can leave it as this improper fraction, or you can change it to your mixed number. I prefer leaving it right here. That's why I said it's done. Because if we're going to check our work, it's so much easier to use your improper fraction. It's easier to work with it if you're multiplying, right? Multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. It's also easier to punch into your calculator using your ABC button. Okay, so check our work. Rewrote the original. -3/5 times, so now we took out x, and they're showing you an arrow here. We put in -10/3. Negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 10 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15. So right here, this one is not done because it simplifies to a whole number. So 30 divided by 15 is 2. So you have to watch out for that as well. So don't always assume that the improper might be done, because if you can simplify your fraction, it's not done. You need to give your answer in simplest form. But simplest form doesn't necessarily mean a mixed number, okay? Just means that if they share a common factor, you have to divide those out. All right, let's take a look at some together. There's 6 examples here. We're going to do all 6 together. So I won't stop the video anywhere. At the end, we'll do a check where you'll answer your questions after we do them all together. Okay. Again, if you don't have your calculator with you, pause and go grab that. So here we have the original. I'm going to rewrite it to give myself a little more room. Okay, so the rule is to get rid of the 1/2. So I'm going to show that I'm going to multiply by 2 over 1. This is to get rid of this. Draw that line down the center if you'd like. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we're multiplying by 2 over 1. Well, some of you guys might think 2 over 1 is silly. 2 over 1 is just 2. So we don't even have to show that over 1 if you understand that. So it's just 13 times 2. If you need, use your calculator, but we won't do that here for this one. 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 1 is 2, so we've got 26. So let's check our work. 1/2 times x equals 13. I'll draw a bigger line here. So this is our check. 1/2 times 26 equals 13. Okay. 1/2 times 26. I'm using my calculator just to make sure I didn't make any silly mistakes. I get 13 here, and that equals 13 there. They match. So I know I did it correctly. So remember, I know sometimes when we do these checks it's confusing. This is the answer. This, if it matches, then we know we did it correctly. So this is just proving that our answer is correct. So that's our answer. 13 is not the answer. That's just proving we found the correct answer, 4x. All right, let's take a look at number 2. I threw 2 fractions in here to make you think a little bit more. Which one is the one we need to move, is what you should be asking yourself. Okay. We want to move the number that's next to the variable. So we want to get rid of the negative 2/3. I'm going to rewrite just again to give myself more room as I work. So I want to multiply by the negative 2/3. So this is the reciprocal, negative 3/2. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay. Negative times a negative is a positive. So I got to make sure that I have that negative in there as well. If we're given a negative fraction, we need to use that. This cancels each other out, leaving us just with a. Over here, 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 3/4, it's not improper, so I'm not going to change it or worry about changing it. It's also simplified. They do not share a common factor. That is the fraction in simplest form. Okay. Right here, again, oh, I forgot to check. So negative 2/3, a equals 1/2. Just rewrote it. Negative 2/3 times negative 3/4 equals 1/2. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. Well, 6 over 12, it doesn't look exactly like 1/2, but remember, we talked about fractions in simplest form. 6 is half of 12. 6 goes into itself once, so just a little review here of simplifying, and 6 goes into 12 twice, so 1/2 is equal to 1/2. That checks. All right, let's keep going here. Again, I should have spaced this out. I'm just rewriting to give us more room. 5/3. I want to get rid of that by multiplying by the reciprocal, so we flip it. What I do to one side, have to do to the other. Cancels out. I got a negative here. Don't lose that negative. Negative times a positive is a negative. I'm going to take care of it right away so I don't forget about it. Okay. I also want to review with you what you probably looked at fractions back in elementary school. But we don't necessarily have to multiply right across. We can simplify first. So I can look at 15 and across from it, and in the denominator is a 5. I can divide here first. 5 goes into 15 3 times. And then I can do 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay? If that confused you, you could still, with your calculator, or without, multiply straight across the top. If you wanted to do 15 times 3, 15 times 3 is 45. 1 times 5 is 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9. Okay, you're going to get to 9 either way. Check it. Oh, 5 thirds, h equals negative 15. 5 thirds times negative 9. So here I could do 9 divided by 3 first, get 3. 5 times 3 is 15. It's a negative 3. Don't lose that negative, so negative 15 equals negative 15. It checks. Okay, multiply by the reciprocal. Reciprocal of 1/7 is 7 over 1, or just 7. Okay. Cancels out. So now we've got 20 times 7. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 2 is 14. I've got 140. I went to the last problem. All right, checking it. Rewrite my original. Take out W, plug in 140. Go into my calculator just so if I made any silly mistakes with multiplying, I'd catch it. 1 ABC 7 times 140 is 20. Check. If you're unsure what I'm talking about with the ABC button, we'll talk about that in class and review that together. But I do want you trying this skill without your calculator and not always relying on the ABC button, because in algebra in 9th grade, that's not always, you won't have an ABC button, but that's not always going to help you. We'll talk more about that in class. All right, we've done quite a few of these. Try these two on your own. So pause the video, try number 5, play the video to see 5, and then I'll remind you to pause it again before you try 6. Okay, so really give it a shot, pause your video, try out 5. Okay, taking the reciprocal, 5/4. Okay, so if you want, you can multiply right across the top and then divide by 4. You can put a 1 underneath the 28 if that helps you. But I like to simplify when I can. So right here, 4 goes into 28 7 times. So now I've got 7 times 5 is 35. Oh. 1 times 1 is just 1. You can put it over 1, but then it'd be simplified down to 35, so you don't even need to write that. Check it. Okay, so right here we could do this again. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 4 times 7 is 28. If I want, I go to my calculator and do 4 ABC5 times 35, and I get 28. I could also do 4 times 35 and get 140. So 4 times 35, get 140. Divide that by 5 and get to 28. Okay, so a few different ways to do that math of multiplying your fraction by a whole number. Do what works best for you. Okay, pause your video and try out 6. This one here, it looks different, but that's just because it's written in the opposite order. So the fraction we're trying to get rid of is still the one by the variable. Should have given myself more room here. But I want to multiply by 4 over 3, and I don't want to forget my negative. So negative 4/3. Multiply over here by negative 4/3. Gone, leaving me just with A. So here, again, I'm going to simplify. 3 goes into itself once and into 33 11 times. Negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 11 is 44. Check it. Plug in my answer of negative 44. Negative times a negative is a positive. I'm going to simplify first here, or divide first. 44 divided by 4 is 11. 3 times 11 is 33. We already said negative times a negative is a positive. It checks out. Okay, last one, we've got our real world application. So remember what we talked about last time. Read the question, then go back and underline, and then reread it again. Write the equation and solve. Best Buy sells a digital camera for $126. This is 2/3 of the price that a photography store charges. What is the cost of the camera at the photography store? Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to underline. I'm going to read in my head as I do this. Well, it's important to know that Best Buy has this camera for $126. That's 2/3 of the photography store. We want to know the cost at the photography store. So let's think about this for a minute. Here's Best Buy for $126. That is 2/3 of the price at the photography store. So ask yourself right now, which one cost more? Is Best Buy's more expensive, or is the photography store more expensive? Best Buy is $126, so this $126 is 2/3 of the price. So I hope you're saying that the photography store is more expensive. So what we want to do is find what 2/3 of the photography store is. So we've got 2/3 times what the photography store sells, and that should equal 126. All right, now we've got our equation. We set this up. Oh, what did I just do? There we go. So 3/2 over here, multiply by 3/2. Again, you can multiply straight across. You could put a 1 here if that helps you. We can simplify first. We can find half of 126. 2 goes into 12 6 times, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. So that made that number a little bit smaller. And now we want to do 63 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 6 is 189. Make sure I did that math correctly, right? Because you're probably thinking, why don't you just punch it in the calculator? You can do that. Okay. So I've got $189 at photography store. Okay, remember this is money. Let's check it. So now, yep, you could check with word problems, but the problem is if you set up your equation wrong or you misunderstood the question in the word problem, the check's not going to do much help there. But we did say that the photography store is supposed to be more expensive, and this is, right, 189 is more than 126. So at least our answer's coming out like it makes sense. So always ask yourself, too, it does, the number you got, does that make sense in what's happening? 2/3 x equals 126. 2/3 times, I'm plugging in my answer, 189. All right, it won't make you suffer. I'm going right to the calculator. 2 ABC 3 times 189. I got 126. Okay, so my work checked out. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me. Thanks for working. Go ahead and answer the questions that follow this video.